Hotel. Welcome to Journey into Self. I'm your host, Sarah. Tonight I wanted to do a show to discuss the importance of spiritual practices and maintaining focus during the challenging times that we're in. Indeed, we are in challenging times. As we broadcast tonight, this is the night of the election. As Prince says on one of his songs, I think it's called Colonized Mind, he says, illusion of choice, a selection between two dangers, illusion of choice. And that's what we have in terms of this election. It's an illusion of choice because either way, there are going to be challenges. Either way, there are going to be circumstances that are going to be adverse to all people, particularly Black people or people of color, or whatever your preferred lexicon is. So we will be facing challenges one way or the other. It's just a matter of how it's implemented and the nature and severity of it. What we've gone through so far, I think, is the tip of the iceberg. Very challenging year here in 2020. And I know that many of us are looking forward to the end of 2020, hoping that we can put this all behind us and that things are going to get better. I'm not so sure. I think there'll be continued challenges because we've talked about what is ahead of us in terms of the fallout of COVID-19 and the effect that it will have on society in terms of the protocols that will be put in place in the wake of that. We were already headed towards an economic recession. So the financial and economic circumstances will be more dire as a result of what has come forth in the wake of the COVID-19 crisis, the shutting down of businesses and the effect that that will have on unemployment. So unfortunately, there's not a lot to look forward to here. So I wanted to do the show tonight to let us know that there is some hope for us, and that even though times are dark, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's upon us to find the source of that light. And the source of that light is within us. The challenges that we are facing and will face, as I pointed out, will be tougher. But challenges also provide us with opportunities. And indeed, challenges present for us the opportunity to gain strength. We know that if we're going to the gym with the objective of getting stronger, it requires us to to challenge ourselves by putting on more weight. And by overcoming that challenge, we become stronger. So there's an opportunity for us to gain strength. It's going to be also important for us to be able to maintain our focus, to resist becoming distracted, to resist being caught up in the negative vibrations that are abounding during these times. It will be important for us to be able to be centered and to be able to cultivate the ability to maintain calmness and peace within ourselves, to not allow ourselves to get caught up and strewn about by the waves of negative vibrations, the wave of negative emotions. As more difficult times create for us strength, it is also during these times that, as my spiritual teacher and guru, Amma, has told us, that during these dark times, we have the chance to grow spiritually at a much more accelerated pace because of what we have to go through right now. And so those of us who are focused, who are engaged in spiritual practices, who are cultivating the ability to maintain calmness, who develop the ability to maintain awareness, to stay in observation of ourselves, to be consistent in our spiritual practices, those things will bear fruit for us much more readily because of the times that we're going in. So it's like, as I pointed out in the analogy about working out in a gym, being pushed hard by a personal trainer, being challenged harder, we will get results faster from being challenged more aggressively. And certainly the times that we're experiencing now and will be experiencing in the years ahead will provide us with some significant challenges and opportunities for us to gain and maintain strength. I'll read a post that I did from my current book, Luminous Wisdom, the Book of Life, Luminous Wisdom, which is available right now on Amazon, shameless plug. Understand that our very lives are an initiation process, particularly for those who have consciously chosen to embark upon the spiritual path. Realize that the path will be strewn with obstacles and challenges. Know that the challenges are part of the initiation and are designed specifically for us to make us stronger. Be awakened and observe the lessons that are embedded in our every experience. There is no chance, coincidence, or accident. Know that there is a purpose to all. Embrace and absorb the lessons. Ashe. Now, it's been explained to us by enlightened masters such as my spiritual teacher Amma that the current circumstances are circumstances that humanity has created. Karma is a universal law. And so what we are experiencing now is a manifestation of the collective karma that humanity has sown for itself. So we're dealing with the effects of that karma right now. Energy is not created or destroyed. So we have to deal with this. So the question is, how do we deal with it? How do we navigate it? And what can we do to lessen the effects upon us? So you'll all know that one of the principal things that I teach is the regular practice of meditation, and that has a high level of importance for us, particularly now, because we're going to be challenged. We are being challenged. Again, we're challenged at every step. There's a reason for me why I don't watch television, and the only television I watch right now, when I watch it, is just to watch sports. I do not engage in watching any news. I even censor the amount of news that I read. And the reason is that we are constantly being programmed and manipulated. So it's important for us to be mindful of that which we're allowing into our own consciousness. So going back to meditation, the meditation helps us to be able to expand our awareness. It helps us to be able to cultivate the ability to be in observation as we are experiencing life, which is a skill that we should actively cultivate, and we can cultivate it. But the way we cultivate it is by real consistent practice of meditation. The opportunity that we have now, since we're forced to be in isolation in our homes now, is that we do, as a result, have more time to be able to go into the solitude of meditation. But just having that opportunity to do so isn't the end goal, is not the objective, because we can't stay in physical meditation. We have to get up and experience life. So the objective is not for us to just go and retreat and meditate and forget about the experience of life. That gives us some temporary solitude during the time when we're doing so. But the objective really is to be able to develop in such a way that we can carry out life and experience life in a meditative type of state to where we are in observation of ourselves as we are participating in life. That's where the esoteric meaning of the biblical scripture, where it says to be in the world but not of it, to where we are experiencing life from a detached perspective in such a way that we're observing ourselves as we are experiencing life, and then deciding how we want to interact instead of that being decided for us. And certainly there are significant attempts to try to make those decisions for us, and it's becoming increasingly so. So it's of extreme importance for us to maintain awareness. For as George Clinton says in the song Funkenteleke, mind your wants because someone wants your mind. Program, deprogram, and reprogram. So we're constantly being manipulated to be in a state of fear or anger or frustration. All of these negative emotions, which I just listed there, put us in a state to where we become much more easily manipulated and controlled. We become reactionary. So we want to get to the place where we're consciously making decisions and we're not reacting, that we're making plans. We're consciously making plans. We're consciously creating with our minds, consciously creating with the words that we speak, consciously in control of our emotions such that we're in control of our emotional state rather than being manipulated into an emotional state. And all of these carry heavy importance because with the thoughts, words, and emotions, we are creating. So to go back into discussion about meditation, during the practice of meditation, our objective is to still our minds, to withdraw our energy from thoughts, to detach from thoughts. And as we detach from thoughts and withdraw our energy, then we observe. We observe our breath. We observe the thoughts as they come. And we, in our observation, make it a point to not give any energy to the thoughts that come in and out of our consciousness. So the purpose of us maintaining our focus between the eyebrows and observing our breath and breathing deeply and deliberately has the effect of physiologically slowing the rate of thought, because by maintaining the focus on the third eye point, physiologically it slows down the rate of thought, because when we start thinking, if we pay attention, our eyes start moving. So by holding the focus between our eyebrows, we're consciously and physiologically slowing the rate of thought by keeping the eyes focused on one point. The other part and purpose of focusing on the third eye point, of course, is that it focuses our attention there and draws all of our energy into that point. So as we go deeper into that, we go into deeper levels of consciousness. We go deeper into ourselves, deeper into the spiritual realm, withdrawing our conscious from the physical, which is important because the physical realm is temporary. And that helps to allow us to cultivate detachment from it. And so that brings us from a point of associating more firmly in the physical realm to transitioning to being more consciously aware and connected to the realm of spirit. So in the process, we develop a dual level of awareness. In the current state that we're in right now, our focus is primarily directed to and limited to the physical realm, which is where most of our identification lies. We identify with the spiritual realm. We look at it from the perspective that it is real when it's not. It's just an illusion, but it is an experience that we're meant to engage in, but not to get caught up in such that it distracts us from our purpose, which is union with spirit or reunion with spirit. And the only thing that really separates us from permanent union with spirit is the level of consciousness at which we reside. But it's through the practice of spirituality, through meditation and yogic practices, those same things help us to bring us back into union with spirit. So we withdraw our consciousness from the physical realm. We detach from it. And so while we're in meditation, we detach and observe. We observe our thoughts. We observe our breath. Breathing slowly and deliberately also affects our physiology in such a way that by slowing our rate of breath, it also slows the rate of thought. So if you pay attention, if you're paying attention to your breath, just through the notice of the rate of breath in which we're engaged will give us a clue into whatever our emotional state is. The more calm we are, the more at peace we are, the more centered we are, the slower we breathe. Conversely, when we're in an agitated state, when we're stressed, our breathing is shorter and more constricted. So that's a clue to us. If we notice ourselves breathing quickly and in a constricted manner, then we know that we're in a negative emotional state. And so we can change that by noticing it and then making it a point to breathe more slowly and more deliberately. So when going back into meditation, we are focused with our eyes on the third eye point, which helps to slow the rate of thought. We're observing our breath and making it a point to breathe more slowly and deliberately, which also helps to physiologically slow the rate of thought. And then we're detaching and observing our thoughts. If we notice then ourselves getting drawn into any particular thoughts, it's just upon us to notice it through observing ourselves, and then to just withdraw our consciousness without imposing any judgment upon ourselves, without trying to figure out how or why that thought came. To just notice it and detach from it, to withdraw our energy. And there's an important principle in that. There's a couple of important principles in that. Okay, one is that thoughts do not belong to us. Thoughts are just things that exist in the atmosphere, in the collective consciousness. They don't belong to us unless we decide to take ownership of them and make them ours. And that's a choice. It's like putting items on a checkout stand at the grocery store. We put them in our cart, but they don't belong to us until we pay for them at the checkout stand. Until that point, they don't belong to us, we can put them back. In the same way, we can withdraw from our thoughts, put them back on the shelf. They don't belong to us. We need not feel any way about how they got into our cart or got into our consciousness. We just, without judgment, we just put them back on the shelf. The other important principle is just what I said, to not have judgment over how the thoughts came to us. So one of the tricks of ego is that the ego will work to send us impulses, thoughts to distract us, and is always working to keep us distracted. And the ego is not who we are. We identify with it, but that's a false identification. So, ego will attempt to make us feel guilty for engaging in or giving attention to certain thoughts, to allowing them to then stay in our consciousness. And if we allow them to stay there long enough, they will ultimately lead us to an act consistent with that thought. And it will bring forth the process of creating energy to attract something, based upon the energy of that thought. And then it'll begin to affect us emotionally, depending upon the nature of that thought. There's a song by Funkadelic, Good Thoughts, Bad Thoughts. It says that thoughts will ultimately blossom into an act and bears its own fruit. Be careful of the thought seeds we plant in the garden of our mind, for seeds grow after their kind. So it's important that we be mindful of the thoughts that we allow to be planted in the garden of our minds. And so it's important, it's imperative that we maintain a constant state of awareness, because not only are we dealing with the thought impulses that are being sent to us from ego, but we're also being affected by the thought impulses that are that exist in the collective consciousness that are constantly coming, and then the intentional programming of thought through the external environment that's coming forth to us through different forms of media, from billboards, radio, television, print media, music. So we're either programming ourselves or we're being programmed. And then, if we're programming ourselves, then we need to be conscious about what we're programming ourselves with. What are we watching? Are you sitting at home watching horror films? That's programming. That's going into your consciousness. What type of music are we listening to? What are the nature of those lyrics? Are we singing along with it? What are we saying? How is that affecting us? All those things go into our subconscious and end up affecting our environment. It affects our emotions. It affects the vibration that we're putting out into the universe attracting in its kind based upon the nature of that vibration. So being aware and mindful is very important. It's going to be much more important during the coming times because there is a very intense battle for control. And it's not just physical control, it's control over our minds. Remember, mind your wants because someone wants your mind. So it's imperative that we be in control of our minds, that we be in control of our consciousness, that we be in control of our emotions, that we not allow ourselves to succumb to external manipulation, to not allow ourselves to succumb to the internal manipulation from ego. If we're able then to withdraw from those influences, then we become masters of ourselves, which is where we want to be. And we can maintain a level of peace during the inevitable periods of turmoil that we are destined to experience as a result of the collective karma that humanity has created for itself, ourselves. So, through the practice of meditation, we will have developed through the consistent practice of being an observation of our thoughts, we will have developed the skill of detaching and observing. We will, through the process of meditation, have developed a level of expanded awareness of ourselves. And in the process of being aware and being in observation, we will notice our physiology as we're meditating. We will notice the thoughts that come into our consciousness. And if we don't catch the thoughts, we will notice how we are feeling emotionally. Because at that point, we've gotten caught up in the thoughts. And then when we catch ourselves, then we can just withdraw our energy. Those are all skills that we can only gain through the practice of meditation. We can't do it just by saying, just reading a book about mindfulness. You know, there's plenty of books out there right now talking about mindfulness. You're not getting it from reading a book. We can only cultivate that through the regular practice of meditation. So then, as we develop the ability to be able to withdraw our consciousness, to withdraw energy from the physical, to be in observation of thought, to be in observation of our emotional state, to be in observation of our physiology. Those skills then we can take and extrapolate them into how we experience life. So just as we've developed the ability to be in observation of ourselves during our meditation, we can do the same thing outside of meditation as we're interacting and experiencing life. We can observe ourselves as we're experiencing life. We can detach as we're experiencing life. We can be in awareness as we're experiencing life. We can withdraw our energy at will as we're experiencing life, just in the same way as we did so when we were in meditation. By so doing, we empower ourselves to be able to decide how we wish to respond to the situations that we encounter. We empower ourselves to be able to decide how we want to respond to the people we encounter and deal with. We empower ourselves to be able to decide whether we want to respond. Sometimes the best choice is not to. Through the expanded awareness that we develop as a result, we will be able to notice when we do get caught up in negative thinking through allowing some negative thoughts into our consciousness. Because thoughts are still going to be coming to us. If you're observing your mind in meditation, you can observe your mind as well when you're going through life. And you'll notice there's a constant stream of thoughts coming in and out of our consciousness, and that there's no connection between them. They're just random. They're not ours. They just exist in the collective consciousness, just floating. And they'll float in and out of our consciousness. But we will either consciously or unconsciously allow them to be planted there. So the skill is to be able to discern and choose which ones that we do want to allow into our consciousness, which ones we do want to plant in water, so that we can cultivate the right fruit. But if we allow bad negative seeds to be planted, we will reap the harvest of that. So, despite the fact that there are external influences and the internal influence of ego, ultimately, the choice ends up coming down to us as to whether we will allow it to stay there, or if we even allow it in. But we can only make that choice if we are in awareness. Because if we're not, then it'll be just like us being tossed into an ocean with turbulent waves. We'll just be tossed to and fro, and we'll have absolutely no control over where we end up. But with awareness, it's like we've, instead of being in the ocean, being strewn about by the waves, that instead now we're inside of a boat with sails and a rudder, and we can control where we end up rather than being tossed and ending up wherever the waves decide to send us. But all of these skills come from the practice of meditation. So there's much more practicality. And that's why I always harp on the importance of meditation, because of the internal and external benefits to us, because of the skills that we learn and master from the regular practice, that will benefit us not just from our connection and fostering our connection and reconnection with spirit, but it also helps us to effectively navigate and deal with life and the obstacles that life presents us. So we become more mindful through the process, not just from reading a book about mindfulness, but by experiencing it through using the skills that we've developed through our meditation practice, and then bringing them forward into how we experience life. We experience life from a detached perspective of awareness and observation. As I every morning arise to do my meditation, as part of my meditation ritual, I will also pray. And the things that I pray for are for me to daily maintain observation, to then through the maintenance of observation, to use proper discrimination as to the thoughts that I allow into my consciousness, the words that I use when I'm speaking, the emotional state that I'm in, and the actions that I engage in. To use proper discrimination over all of those things, because all of those things create and they contribute a vibration into the universe, into the collective consciousness of humanity. During one of the meditation practices that is taught by my spiritual master, Amma, she points out that the world is in an agitated state. And the agitated state is a reflection of the state of mind, the collective state of mind that humanity is in. Because each of us sends a vibration into the universe, into the world, based upon the nature of our thoughts, emotions, words, and actions. All of those things contribute to the vibration of the world. All these things contribute to the collective consciousness. And so we have a lot of people who talk about how they want to change the world. But when people talk about changing the world, they're typically talking about trying to change someone else. But if we endeavor to change the world, that starts with ourselves. It starts with being in control of ourselves by controlling the vibration that we're emanating into the world, because the vibration that we emanate affects the people around us. And so if we want to start change, the change starts with us. The change starts internally. And I can tell you from personal experience that the emotional state that we're in affects the people around us and vice versa. My nature is to be calm in general. And so people have told me that I emit an energy of calmness. And so when people are around me, it affects them. And I have the effect of calming people down. In fact, people have told me that, and sometimes will just come and stand in my presence just because of that. You know, when they notice themselves being in kind of a bit of an agitated state, they will come and stand by me. You know, if they have that level of awareness, they'll come and stand near me in order to calm themselves down, because they understand the energy. Now, I can't say that I maintain that all the time, but for the most part, I do. Yeah, I'm a work in progress like everyone else. You know, all the things that I post in my books and on Facebook or whatever social media outlet are things that I hold myself accountable to as well. So I'm not standing here trying to say that I'm above it. I'm not. Uh, so everything that I post are things that I remind myself to do as well. So my prayer is about maintaining constant observation. 2, maintaining to make sure that I'm aware such that I will make the right decisions about and discrimination about the thoughts, words, actions, and emotions. And then 3rd is to maintain a state of detachment such that I don't get caught up in the collective consciousness, that I'm not being affected by the collective consciousness, that I'm not being affected by the things that are going on around me, that I'm not being affected by what's on television or what have you, all the external influences, then I'm not allowing myself to get caught up in that. So that's part of my daily prayer. And so that starts off my day setting forth the objective for me to maintain that constant state of awareness and to make conscious decisions and to catch myself, if I fall, lose awareness and fall into some pattern. And, on a future show, we'll talk about, the patterns that we all have to overcome, as part of our respective journeys. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the show. I hope this has been beneficial. I know it's been beneficial, particularly if you do all these things that I talked about. It will absolutely be beneficial to you. So please do this. If you have questions, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me by contacting me through the Facebook Messenger. You can go to my website, which is www.sa-ra.org. That's www.sa-ra.org. You can contact me there and then sign up for a free 30-minute consultation. And I can work with you directly and help in your spiritual development. And then I also encourage you to go to Amazon and pick up my books. I have 2 books out. The first book is The Book of Light by Sarah. And the second book, which is currently out, that just came out this year, is Book of Light, Luminous Wisdom. So with that, I'll bid you peace in the Kemetic words, Hotep, and look forward to seeing you on the next show in 2 weeks here on Journey into Self, where we will have Sister Sophia Giza as our guest. Hotep, see you next time.